Izuku Midoriya is born into a world full of quirks or superpowers. And these superpowers or quirks, well, they vary from various different types of powers. But Izuku would be born with a quirk that many wouldn't even imagine to be necessarily possible. And at the age of 4, he would be deemed having the ability of matter manipulation. And this matter manipulation has a ton of different things you could do, and truly it is all up to his imagination to get the most out of his quirk. But Izuku Midoriya, throughout the years, he tries his best to figure things out, but there's one thing that definitely stood out for Izuku Midoriya, and it's the fact that he was an absolute genius, or at least it seemed like he was, at least to a certain extent. He was a genius in regards of science, like an absolute genius in regards of science. He was insane. He saw everything to a different playing field. He saw everything through a different perspective, and it's as if science was just surrounding him at all times. He saw the atoms, he saw different compounds, he saw everything. And it seems like he is at a borderline level of being a genius. But all the other subjects, I mean, it's not that he struggled with them, but he was just nowhere near as intelligent in terms of the other subjects. But one thing that he was very, very, very interested and good at, well, was creating things and creating support things. And this right here is where we kind of get into the realm of, well, him and Inko Midoriya, or his mother, making money off of his own quirk. Now, Izuku would have no issues with this. Even Inko would be hesitant initially about actually utilizing her son's quirk to make money, but he could do things in various ways. He could just flat out create things and make things, flat out gold, create things or change things to make them entirely gold, and then they just sell them and make a bunch of money. Or he could try his best to create inventions, make inventions out of his imagination itself, and basically sell them to different companies, different agencies, and different things like that. And, well, his mother is curious, wondering what Izuku wants to do as a hero. I mean, he could be a support hero, or he could be a full-fledged hero and, be on the front lines fighting side by side with his fellow students. But she doesn't know. What does Izuku really want to do? What is his plans? What does he consider being great about being a hero? And what does he truly want to get out of being a hero? And, well, Izuku, he doesn't even necessarily know just yet. He doesn't know if he wants to be, a hero like All Might. And he doesn't know if he wants to be like, a support hero like some of the better support heroes. He has no clue. He really has no idea which route he really wants to take. But he continues kind of pushing forward. I mean, he has some time before he actually has to choose what he wants to do or what he has to do. And Izuku would continue throughout middle school and throughout life and stuff like that. And he would show off his powers here and there. And honestly, a lot of people would be damn impressed by it. And Izuku would be pretty popular in his school. Izuku would be pretty popular among all the students and all the faculty. I mean, everybody would think like, oh, his quirk is awesome. I mean, you run out of pencils, hey, he can make pencils. You run out of this, you run out of that, oh, he can make it. I mean, he could straight up make food, which ends up not working as well as you think, because, well, it kind of does take away from him entirely, and he does work off of a lot of his own hunger if he makes food. So it's kind of counterproductive doing that. But Izuku himself still understands that he could do so much. Like, his creation abilities are at a totally different level. But time will only tell what he ends up doing, and the time finally comes for him to choose. At the end of middle school, he would be asked what he would want to do. And normally the teacher would tell everybody that he already knows what they're all wanting to do. He already knows that they all want to be heroes. But Izuku doesn't know what type of hero he wants to be. Does he want to be a support hero? Does he want to be, like, a regular hero? Does he want to be someone on the front lines fighting, saving people, this and that? He has no idea. Does he want to start a business and start creating things to help heroes all alike? He doesn't know. He genuinely doesn't know. But after all these years, you would think that he would have finally came up with a proper position for himself. But he really hasn't. He really has not came up with the idea that he wants to continue on for the rest of his life. But honestly, that's pretty normal. And the teacher even tells him that. He tells him, how about this? Go, try out for UA, go to the entrance exam, do your absolute best, and see where you are. You know the powers you have. You know the potential you have. Go do that. Go handle your business there. And maybe you'll even get a chance to do both of what you really want to do. Maybe you'll be a hero similar to your All Mights and your Endeavors and your stuff like that. And maybe you'll even be able to be a support hero. Maybe you'll be able to create things, help people through the active acts of, gadgets and stuff like that. In which that's something Izuku really hasn't thought about, but he's right. He should do that. He should honestly approach things this way. Maybe he can do both, and that's what he tries to do. Now, he does train, prepare for the UA entrance exam, and he even tries to talk to UA faculty about him working with both support and also, the hero groups or class of the first years of heroes, and he wants to work with both of them. In which normally they would think, you know what, that's not the best choice, and it's risky, right? Like, he needs to be focused on one thing, hone in on one thing. But Izuku shows them what he could do, shows all of them, basically almost all the faculty that are there, shows them all, and they're like, you know what? It seems like you got your head on straight, and it seems like you got some capabilities. And based on your test scores, you are definitely above the normal student that tries out and goes into the entrance exam. So how about this? Let's give you a shot. And that's what they do. They end up giving him a shot. And that's something that Izuku is pretty excited about. But of course, he has a lot to do before that actually happens. And this is even, this conversation even kind of occurs before the, the time that would actually ensue with the normal case of the 10 months of training. And Izuku would actually be looking at looking at the news, excuse me. And when he's looking at the news, he actually hears about the sludge villain, and he's like, "Oh, you know what? That's pretty crazy. That was pretty close to my school. Like, I mean, if I didn't leave that one day early, maybe I would have ran into that thing. Like, that's pretty scary." And he thinks like villains are terrifying when you put it into perspective. You have to worry about them almost at every single level. You got to worry about them in terms of strength, power, possibilities, what they're capable of themselves. He doesn't know, but that's really a scary thing. And he thinks, you know what? Imagine if I was able to be there to help take down the sludge villain. He might have been able to put him in a prison pretty quickly, might have been able to, create some sort of bubble around him that didn't allow him to leave, or maybe even changed it so that his cells weren't the way they are and he wasn't as, gooey and wasn't like sludge anymore. In which it is something to think about, but Izuku, well, you know what? Izuku doesn't really want to put his mind toward that regard, at least not yet. In which, of course, Izuku would be excited to prepare, excited to get ready, and excited to get ready for what's to come. And that's after 10 months of training. 10 months of training, and Izuku is ready. Izuku is ready for the UA entrance exam. Now, in terms of the written portion, that he would pass with flying colors. Like, it would be so easy for the written. I mean, yes, he does struggle at least in comparison to science and stuff like that. He struggles in comparison to the other subjects. But overall, I mean, he's a smart guy. He's a very smart kid. So he's able to get through a ton of this without even really much trouble. And eventually he would be ready for the practical exam. And, well, the practical exam is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be shocked to watch. Because Izuku sees what he has to go up against. He has to go against a bunch of robots. And a bunch of robots are very, very malleable. And, well, he flies around and he just begins to absolutely melt every single robot. Not in the traditional sense, but he breaks down the atoms and the compounds within the robot to the point where the metals kind of not necessarily melt, but the metals kind of just completely break down, and the robot just instantly gets destroyed. He does this so quick that he absolutely obliterates every single robot, with really nobody being able to get a bunch of them at all. I mean, in total, he probably had like 98% of the robots defeated, and the rest of the people were kind of scrounging for anything, in which Aizawa and many others are watching this in complete and utter shock. How is he able to do this? Like, seriously, how is he able to do something like this and to this level? Like, this is absolutely wild. This is absolutely insane. In which they wonder, you know what? Send out the 0-pointer. You know, we want to see what he can do. In which Izuku sees the 0-pointer come toward him, and he thinks, should he even try to defeat this thing? You know what? Why not? In which he actually tries his best to do that, and it's really insane to what he's able to do, because what he did to the other robots, he does to the 0-pointer, and his control, his capabilities, his understanding of all of it, of everything that is to do with science involving the robots, well, he's at a totally elite level. Like, he handles that robot in no time at all, and everybody's watching, and everybody's in awe at the fact that he just did that. But after it all is said and done, after Izuku heads home, after everybody sends out those letters to see who gets into Class 1A and UA in general, Izuku would get a letter. No, he would get 2 letters telling him that he is welcomed into Class 1A as the #1 student, but he also is welcomed into the support course just as well. And they have a kind of schedule for him to be at the support course during certain times, after school, before school, stuff like that, maybe even during school, depending on the circumstances. And Izuku would be excited to do both. He wants to show that he is the best of both worlds, and that's what he's going to do. He enters Class 1A, and he enters as the #1 student. And everybody there, well, let's just say they either love him or they absolutely hate him. Because some of them are thinking, you really did take away a chance for all of us to shine by doing what you did. But other people, they're thinking that he is on a different level, that he is insane, that he is awesome, that he is the future of what this is. And Aizawa, well, he enters and asks the kid, and tells the kid really, to not get a big head. Make sure to not get a big head. Because just because everyone is praising you, everybody is saying that you're so awesome and so good, doesn't mean you should get a big head and think that you are, you know, the best ever. In which Izuku shrugs his shoulders and says, you know what, you're right. I have no plans of getting a big head, no plans of thinking that I'm better than anyone. I'm going to use my quirk and my powers to the utmost degree, and I'm going to show everyone why I can be the best, because I'm not the best. Not yet, but I will be. In which Aizawa, he likes his answer. He thinks, you know what, that's a pretty good damn answer. And he can't complain about it. Not really. Not really, at least, right? And Izuku, he's just waiting for the eventual things for Aizawa to say. And Aizawa tells them that they're going to be heading outside for a quirk assessment test. And this quirk assessment test, well, it's pretty basic. You're going to be doing a lot of these basic things. And for starters, you're going to throw a ball as far as possible. And that's what Izuku is told to do. And he chucks this thing. I mean, he can manipulate the ball however he wants. And on top of that, he can basically make it borderline frictionless. So he can throw it to the sky and it can go all the way to space. And that's exactly what he does. And he gets an infinity rating. And everybody's watching and thinking, yeah, they understand how this is going to go. In which Izuku does that. And then many other students, they fall a little bit short, but Ochaku Araka actually ties with him in this test. Now, all the other tests, Izuku blows everyone out of the freaking water, being able to fly across small places very quickly. His strength is pretty good. Of course, he's not the best in this one, but his strength is pretty good, but overall isn't the best. Now, in terms of speed, in terms of agility, in terms of many other things, his test scores and these scores are just too good to not be labeled as #1. And Izuku is basically showing the entire class why he is the #1 student and why he's going to continue being that #1 student. Now, after all the classes are said and done, he does head to the support course to work with the support course as well. And he does. He actually meets someone by the name of Mei Hatsume, who is a little bit of a interesting person, you could say. An interesting person. And she's kind of going insane, right? Kind of going crazy, talking about this, talking about that, talking about her babies, which eventually he figures out means inventions, but he's kind of weirded out by it. But he does help her to a large degree, helping her with different materials, helping her with different ideas, even creating things on the fly, in which she thinks is pretty damn awesome, thinking that, yeah, like that is pretty damn cool that he's able to do all those things. And she figures that they're going to be honestly best of friends, or, you know, they're going to be honestly really good friends, because she really needs help all the time, which he does tell her that he's not a full-time support course student. He actually does split up his days between hero and support, but it is mostly hero, because that's where where he's placed the most. In which she says, oh, no, that's completely fine. She just has a list of things for him to either create or give ideas on, in which he does just that. Throughout this time, about an hour and a half goes by of him just creating, making, and doing things like that. And, well, she gets a lot done, a lot quicker than you could imagine too, especially with Izuku's ability to kind of manipulate matter to a different degree, especially with his ability to manipulate things and do things to a degree that many people are and were not really ready for. And that right there is pretty damn awesome. But after a considerable amount of work with the support course, he actually doesn't have another meeting/work session with them for a couple more days. And the next day, he actually works with All Might himself. Yeah, he's pretty excited about this because All Might is freaking awesome. And at the end of the day, working with All Might and working and training with other people with All Might is going to be an awesome thing for him. And the training session deals with heroes versus villains. The heroes being Izuku and Ochaku Uraka, and the villains being Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Which Izuku finds this to be very, very ironic. Especially dealing with the fact that Tenya Ida is a goody two-shoes, and Bakugo is borderline a villain. Because Bakugo is a psychopath that is a little bit too much in his own head. Now, with all that said, he knows that stuff like this and situations like this, especially with the one explained by All Might, and he is told that it's a bomb situation, is benefiting him massively. Like, massively. Because Izuku, he knows that he could straight up kind of open up the entire building to see where people are if he so chooses to do so, but he wants to do it a little bit more tactically. To retrieve the bomb, he actually picks up Ochako. They fly around a bit, looking for through windows and stuff like that, and they begin to actually survey the area, and eventually they find the area. He puts his hand on the wall as the wall entirely opens up, and they both just touch the bomb, and in a matter of like 10-15 seconds, they've already won the challenge, and they've already won the training session, which is pretty damn awesome. But Bakugo is pretty damn mad, saying that he wanted to fight Izuku. He wanted to prove and show what he could do, and he wanted to prove that he was better than him, in which Izuku shrugs his shoulders and says that he'll have to prove it another time and prove it in another manner, because in terms of this, he's not better than him. And it's that simple. In which Bakugo's obviously pissed off by this, and Bakugo goes charging forward, about to hit him with an explosion. But before he can, well, All Might's already in front, tanking the explosion for Izuku, and he has the arm of Bakugo. All Might tells it to never do that again. You never attack your classmates, never attack your fellow heroes. That he needs to really think about what he's doing here, and what he really and I want him to think really hard about if he truly wants to be a hero. Because right now, it doesn't seem like he wants to be. With all that said and done though, Izuku heads off, and the next couple days, they prepare for going into the USJ, or a rescue training facility, in which they all head off on a bus, and they all start talking. And most of them have questions for Izuku. What is his quirk? What can he do? In which he basically says that he can manipulate matter, and he starts messing with certain things, and even grabs like a small pencil and turns it into something totally different. He tells them that he just has to have an understanding, at least to an extent, but he can see things like completely differently. He sees everything that is in front of them through the kind of visual of different atoms, different combinations, different compounds, and that's how he sees them. In which Momo Yaoyorozu even brings up the fact that her quirk is very similar, but it's definitely not as powerful, in which she shows it off a little bit, but Izuku says that her quirk is no freaking joke, right? There is no joke, or it is no joke. And yes, she might be limited in a different way than Izuku, and they might have their similarities as well, but she still has massive potential. And everything is up to creativity at the end of the day, and everything is up to the imagination. And Izuku says that that is their only true limiters, is imagination. Yes, there are limiters in terms of food and stuff like that, lack of lipids, whatever you could think of, but truly, the only limitation is imagination. In which he tells her this, and she's thinking like, wow, you know what, that was kind of inspirational in a way. And everybody's pretty impressed by this, thinking like, wow, you know what, Izuku's right. Like, our only limitations is really the limitations we put on ourselves. Yeah, naturally, everybody has their mild limitations, you know, this, that, or another thing. But overall, they can do anything they put their minds to, as long as they completely put their minds to it. And that right there is the reality of it. And that right there is going to truly be what's going to push Izuku to a different freaking level. And that's what he does. But before he continues to push himself, until he's to that next level, Izuku is for the most part kind of getting to the point of like preparing mentally for what they're going to be doing. And that's a lot to do with rescue training, of course. And they kind of await this rescue training, but Izuku is kind of like getting a weird feeling about something that is about to arrive or something that is coming. And he's kind of worried about something. He doesn't know exactly what it could be, what it is, or what it should be, or what it can be, but he is worried. He's worried that someone or something is about to arrive, and well, he's right. Something is about to arrive. And what's about to arrive is the arrival of the League of Villains at the USJ. And the USJ is a scary thing, normally. But Izuku tells Aizawa when all this is happening that if he allows him to help, that if he allows him to, you know, help out and they fight together, they could really do something here and stop this right here and right now. In which, of course, Aizawa is hesitant, but he decides to allow Izuku to do so. In which Izuku, well, he starts actually manipulating everything that's around them, kind of changing the environment and just like trapping a lot of the villains just away, unable to actually affect the fight. And he traps like all of them. Like, we're talking everybody that doesn't have any kind of powerful quirk that can allow them to get out. He traps them all, and it's very, very easy for him to do so. And he traps them all in like a pseudo prison like area, and this pseudo prison is perfect to keep them under wraps, at least keep them under wraps for the moment. And Izuku, well, he stalls out a ton of time, and after he basically captures a ton of the villains, all they have to worry about now is Shigaraki, the Nomu, and also, of course, Kurogiri. And yes, that's easier said than done. Like, we're talking like that is pretty those people are very, very difficult to handle, but at the same time, Izuku is going to be able to handle these people, they're going to be able to handle these people a lot easier since they have less people to truly worry about, which is kind of the big idea, at least for the moment. And now, with all that said, Izuku is told and given the want, or people want him to actually go off and get help like ASAP, and that's what he's going to do now. So he flies off to get help, as he already has helped so much with the villains that really, were going to hurt them, at least for the most part. And Izuku helps out to a large degree, flies off pretty damn quick, even faster than what Tenya would be able to actually run off and get help, and he's able to get said help pretty quickly. Now, when they arrive, Shigaraki and all the Nomu and stuff like that, they're fighting Aizawa. But luckily, since no one is actually hurt and, Pro Hero 13 is able to still help to a degree, Aizawa's not going to be horribly injured because Izuku left. Actually, Aizawa's in pretty decent shape, and when All Might arrives to take on the Nomu, Aizawa gets help from Izuku to actually stop Shigaraki entirely, and Izuku actually gets him stuck entirely in the ground. Realizing that his quirk revolves a lot around his, basically his hands, and or his ability to do something known as decay, and Izuku basically stops him from doing anything right then and right there by putting him basically in the ground. Not killing him, but putting him in the ground, putting him literally in the ground. And he's only can see where his head is, and Kurogiri is kind of in the same situation, unable to move and kind of really trying to utilize his quirk, but Izuku is actually affecting him, and so is Aizawa to a large degree, stopping them from utilizing their quirks at all. And also, as the Nomu is defeated by All Might, everybody watches as other heroes arrive, and other heroes get there to help out with the stopping of obviously Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu from escaping at all, which they stop them from escaping, and they're able to actually deny the League of Villains, from getting on with their future plans. Now, after the USJ is all said and done, they do have to talk to Izuku for a little bit about basically what he did, and yes, it's a really good thing and blah blah blah, but he has to be more careful, right? Got to be really careful because it's technically not legal for him to be doing the things he did. Now, nobody's here to talk about it necessarily. They don't have to talk about it. And they're just telling him that if he's out in public, make sure to be careful. Make sure to be very careful, because last thing they want is for him to get in trouble for no reason and basically just, not be able to be the hero he wants to be and not be the hero that he's capable of being because, he got caught doing something he technically isn't supposed to be doing, even if it is for the greater good and for the help of others. But without a hero license, he shouldn't be doing it, or at least not without a provisional hero license as well. Now, with all that said and done, with all that kind of handled to a large degree, Izuku would be preparing now for the actual UA Sports Festival. Something that Izuku is going to be far better at than really anybody will imagine. Because when we start at the UA Sports Festival and we go into, the actual beginning of it, which is the obstacle course race, Izuku can literally fly around everything and even make the obstacles a lot harder for everyone else, which is a pretty funny thing, especially because he starts kind of trapping people in different areas, and they're forced to utilize their quirks to get out of them and stuff like that. And everyone's kind of like, damn, really? This guy's really doing this? He's stopping us from doing certain things and blah, blah, blah. And it's pretty damn impressive what he's doing. And he gets first place. But with first place, of course, he now has to deal with being, the number one target, especially with the cavalry battle. But being the number one target isn't too scary, especially when we're dealing with something like, we're dealing with something that is basically a 4 versus 4 all around the board, where it's Izuku, Tokiyami, Ochako, and Meihatsume, of course, being that her and Izuku are pretty damn good friends at this point. And of course, that is the case. And we also know that Izuku can basically do so many different things to legitimately make kind of the UA Sports Festival that much easier for himself, and that's what they basically do. Izuku, for the most part, is handling his business at the UA Sports Festival, and is easily handling everybody during the cavalry battle. The cavalry battle is not even that fair, especially because Izuku is able to basically build walls for him and his team, and kind of separates themselves and makes it so it's impossible for anybody to really get a good hit and or kind of get anything going with trying to stop them, in which that's the absolute reality of Izuku being this good, and the absolute reality of Izuku kind of having these powers and them fitting perfectly in what he's trying to do. Now, after the cavalry battle, we obviously are coming up on the 1 versus 1s. And the 1 versus 1s, well, that's where things get a little bit more tricky. Because yes, Izuku would be dealing with Hitoshi Shinso from the very beginning, but the thing is, he does get caught basically with Shinso's quirk, because he gets under his skin like an idiot, and Izuku doesn't listen to, obviously, the people telling him, hey, do not talk back to this guy at all. And unfortunately, he gets caught out, and he basically is told to jump off, and with no help from, past vestiges of his powers, he's unable to get out of that mind state, and he gets, or he basically has to get eliminated right then and right there. And it's unfortunate, but it's the truth, and Izuku falls short, and it really pisses him off, because honestly, he's at a level that he should have and could have won the UA Sports Festival. And now, being that he is the number 1 student, or was the number 1 student at the entrance exam, now he has to take this one on the chin. But he does. He takes this one on the chin. And of course, they go on and continue on with what they're doing. And this is when kind of we lead into the internships and stuff like that. And the internships are pretty straightforward for Izuku. He doesn't have a ton of offers, but he does get quite a few from different support agencies, or different agencies that need supports, or kind of different heroes that see massive potential in him, because Izuku was showing off pretty damn well, but he's not famous, right? He's not this famous person like your Todorokis and stuff like that. So he does, work with a different type of hero, but it's a hero that is, decent, partially good, or he's decently up there. But in terms of heroes, he doesn't have a ton of choices, right? He doesn't have a ton of them. Like, he's not going to be able to go and work with somebody like Endeavor, or work with people like that are of high regard, but he'll still, have a good chance at picking a hero that is pretty damn impressive. Now, are they as impressive as some of those really high-ranking heroes? Of course not. That's not the case, but they still are impressive nonetheless. And he wonders, where should he go? Like, truly, what should he do? And he actually ends up deciding on a little bit of a boring option, but a little bit of something that he believed that would be beneficial to him. And he actually just goes and works with Power Loader. Now, it's a little boring. Yeah, that is true. But he decides to work with Power Loader because, well, he can get more support kind of course like ideas out of these things, and start working with more support heroes and support things in general. And working with Power Loader would definitely be beneficial. But as the last day of him being able to choose is actually about to happen, well, he actually gets something that he would have no idea and would not expect at all. And that is another letter. But this letter isn't from Japan at all. It's from the United States, and from somebody by the name of David Shield. And this is insane, because Izuku knows who David Shield is, and they offer him an internship over there for about a week, and he can head over to the United States. They'll pay for everything, and he can basically work with them, train with them, and do everything. And well, Izuku does just that. Goes over there for a week, meets David Shield, meets actually Melissa, who he gets along with very well, and they start working on different items, different things, and he shows off his powers. And this is when they start learning about the infinite abilities that Izuku could possibly have. They nerd over different ideas, different things, and after days of nerding out, figuring things out, questioning things, and honestly creating things, making honestly the David Shield kind of company even better with the help of Izuku, after about 5 days, they would get an unfortunate call. A call from something and someone that they weren't necessarily expecting until 2 days from now. They're told that everybody from the internships has to head back because, well, it seems like someone that they work with, someone that they're students with, someone that they're friends with by the name of Tenya Ida was killed by the hero killer, and which would shock everybody, and even David Shield and Melissa would basically comfort Izuku, and Zuko wouldn't even be able to comprehend this. Like, that's insane. How did somebody that he knows and he's somewhat close to die? I mean, it shouldn't happen this way. They're not even full-fledged heroes yet. In which they console Izuku for a little bit, but quickly they get him on a private jet back to Japan, and they leave him with some good things, right? They give him some of the technology they worked on, different things, different potential things, and also some ideas for his quirk usage. But when he gets back, nothing feels the same. Nothing. They sit there, they listen to Aizawa, but it feels like nothing will be the same. And yes, they have a final exam that's coming up. They have a final exam that they work on, the written, and they continue on. But it's so difficult to get your mind off the idea that someone they know, someone they care about, someone they worked with has died. And they just don't understand. How could this have happened? It doesn't make any sense. And it really messes with their heads, really messes with them. But it's not like they have a choice. They have to keep pushing on and keep doing what they can. And that's exactly what they do. They continue pushing forward, continue going forward. And after the written portion of the exam, they have the actual practical portion of the exam. Now, Izuku's practical, though, is a little different, because he does bring up some facts and some ideas that him, David Shield, and Melissa Shield were working on, in which Aizawa is interested in this, very interested, and says that if these ideas work, what he's saying, and if he can do these things, he doesn't got to worry about the final. This is his final. If he can do this, then this right here will send him into a different stratosphere in terms of being a hero, in which Izuku tells him that he thinks that he can truly make All Might go back to his prime, in which would shock everybody, right? Everybody knew that All Might was, not what he used to be, because they've seen the videos, but how far off is he really? In which Izuku, well, he kind of goes on his own with All Might, Aizawa, and many others, and he starts kind of messing with it, and eventually, after going through so many different things with David Shield himself, he finds the issues, fixes them, and he basically creates and remakes All Might's injuries and gets rid of them, and it's fresh, brand new body parts now, and it basically his organs no longer an issue, everything, so much. Now, he doesn't have One for All, so that is a big thing, but obviously Izuku has no idea about that. He doesn't know anything about One for All. Actually, Mirio is the one that actually ends up getting it, but at the same time, it doesn't matter, at least not right now, because All Might, with those embers of One for All, is at peak condition. So there's nothing that he really can't do, but he still needs to maintain himself to a degree. And Izuku even tells him to make sure to maintain yourself, don't do anything too crazy, and blah, blah, blah. But with all that said and done, he actually decides he's going to admit to Izuku what's going on and what he can do and blah, blah, blah. In which, that's what he does. He admits to him, tells him all about it. Tells him all about what he can do, what it is, and also what One for All is, and blah, 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 and how he gave it away to Mirio Togata, and yeah. And which Izuku says, like, thanks, but, I mean, he didn't really need to know all that. Like, he gets it. He understands that there's a lot to his hero work, and even David Shield didn't say anything either about it. Like, he basically was telling him, like, yeah, I can't give you a bunch of information, but I can give you a big opportunity. And that's what he took. In which Izuku basically tells him, like, it doesn't matter necessarily that he gave it away. It doesn't matter that he didn't know that's how it worked, or he didn't know that he had a quirk like that. But now they're here. Now All Might is at peak condition, and Aizawa says, yeah, you're good off the final, and you don't have to worry about it. But the other students, on the other hand, they definitely have to worry about it. In which Izuku says, like, yeah, I mean, he figured as much. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. But at the same time, Izuku is just excited. excited to see what All Might can do and what's going to happen next. And the Forest Training Camp is what's next. And Izuku gets a ton of time for himself to train, a ton of time to work, a ton of time to get stronger, better. And he just, at the end of the day, is just learning so much about his quirk that he had no idea was possible in the first place. And there's a lot he can do. I mean, it is really, really ridiculous, the type of things that he is capable of doing, and the type of things he is basically able to do now that he's been basically working and training this quirk to a completely different degree. Like, his quirk is on a different level than it's ever been, and he continues to create things and continues to get stronger, better, faster, everything you can possibly imagine. And, well, it seems like he continues to up the ante and continues to get better and better as we all speak. But before you know it, the Forest Training Camp would be coming to an end. The training would be coming to an end, and soon they would be watching the final battle of All Might. The final battle between All For One and All Might. And that is something to behold, because the final battle between All Might and All For One is a spectacle to watch, and every single person in Japan watches intently. They watch intently as the one that seemed to be so prepared for everything falls so easily to All Might. And Izuku, well, he's preparing something that many would never know would be needed in the near future, and that's a perfect prison for some of the most powerful people in the world. And even creating even better and quirk canceling cuffs that every single person, every single police force, every single thing, everybody will end up using. And Izuku's just progressing technology and progressing everything to a degree that nobody could even imagine. And, well, it is a different time now for Izuku Midoriya, and it is different time in general, involving basically the power, the strength that he's going to show, and a different time for every single person to watch, especially as Izuku Midoriya is slowly but surely becoming an actual hero. But to be a hero, you got to go and get your license, and that's the next thing these heroes are going to do. So after the fight of All Might's life, and after he wins it in spectacular fashion, Izuku Midoriya and Class 1A will be going off to their provisional hero license exam to see if they can also start their first true step to being a hero, and their first true step to entering their hero journey. Izuku Midoriya is finally on his path to becoming an actual hero, and that's would have to include getting into the provisional hero license exam. The provisional hero license exam, well, it's an important part of becoming a hero, especially with what Izuku Midoriya is going to be able to do in this said exam. Now, the first portion of the exam is pretty actually basic. The first portion of the exam involves him actually, for the most part, tagging people with a ball, kind of like dodgeball in a way. But you have to tag the lights of different people, and when you do so, you actually get eliminations, and as long as he gets a certain amount of eliminations, he goes on to the next round. Now, with his quirk, he could straight up make a ton of these balls and just start shooting them everywhere. And as he does this, he eliminates multiple people at once, and he easily gets on to that next round. But the next round is when Izuku Midoriya will truly thrive, because he starts working with people like Momoya Yorozu and other people around to set up base camp to start with. Now, base camp is very easily created by Izuku, because he literally makes like an actual base camp. Just out of nowhere, out of just thin air, he seemingly is able to create a very certified shelter and a certified area with a ton of stuff that they would possibly need. I mean, they have med kits, they have a bunch of things that could possibly help them, water, they have food, they have different things that could be needed. Now, this does wear him down a little bit just doing this, but he knows that just doing this specifically is going to help him get a way better score and is really what you would want to do in a scenario like this. Now, in terms of the water and food, well, the water is easy, but the food itself, obviously, it does affect him, and it's not really the best idea for him to make food necessarily, but he makes more or less like stuff that is just hyper needed if in a bad scenario. It's nothing insane, nothing crazy, but the more specific thing is just having anything to do with like different types of med kits and different types of things you could possibly need, right? In an emergency situation. And it's kind of perfect for Izuku to actually do just that, and it's kind of perfect for him to get set up in this way. And as he's set up and as everything is prepared properly, Izuku wonders, like, you know what's to come next, right? Because he did all that, he helped out massively with all those regards, but on top of that, of course, he has helped with so many other things like saving different people. But the main specific thing that he's thinking about is kind of like, what's next? Seriously, like, it can't just be this. And he would be right, because eventually these fake villains and also a fake main villain would show up. The fake main villain is Gang Orca. Yeah, Gang Orca is a serious foe, and Izuku watches as Gang Orca kind of puts the beating on one of the students that are there. He gets overconfident and he thinks, oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to defeat him super easily. And well, he was so freaking wrong. Yeah, he did take advantage of getting, the upper hand on some of these more minor villains or kind of the weaker people that are just around. But in terms of Gang Orca is no freaking joke, and he easily handles his way through, defeating basically everyone there, or defeating just the kid that initially stepped up to the plate. And Gang Orca shows that it's not going to be so easy for them to really do what they want to do. And that right there is a pretty scary thing, especially because now he knows that it's going to be massively difficult to actually get something done and actually do something properly. And Izuku is just thinking, okay, well, like, I might need to help these people out because it seems like they're actually struggling. And luckily enough, Inasa and Todoroki start actually trying to work together, but unfortunately they're unable to actually work together properly. But they are working together, at least to an extent. And when they're working together, it seems like, well, that they're actually going to be able to do some massive damage, like massive amounts of damage if properly utilized. So Izuku creates kind of something that would allow them to both in unison kind of utilize their powers and make some sort of vortex. And Izuku is able to actually trap Gang Orca within that vortex and trap him entirely, so where the powers of Inasa and Todoroki combined seamlessly, and it seems like it's actually not even gonna be able to get out. And on top of that, Gang Orca's unable to actually drink water and get things swinging back in his direction. And he's flat out defeated by these three students. Izuku is pretty damn tired though, with all the stuff that he has done with trying to rescue, with trying to help people out, with setting up different things and all of the above. Like, I mean, who wouldn't be? He's absolutely exhausted, but he still was able to help massively in every single regard, in like every single point of imagination. He was able to help drastically to get everybody to safety. But with all that said and done, Izuku has quite a bit of choices coming up for his work study. Yes, he passes the provisional hero license exam with flying colors, passing it very easily. In fact, actually his quirk is borderline perfect for this, but he continues to kind of work with class 1A, but also works with the support course quite a bit, working with them, learning from them, and also just trying to up the ante for what he is possibly able to do, because he thinks that there's so much more that he hasn't been able to do that he truly can do. And that right there is a pretty scary thing. I mean, the fact that Izuku's potential seems to be boundless, and he continues to impress overall, is something that a lot of people are kind of thinking about, especially these other heroes that are potentially candidates to actually have Izuku join their ranks, and candidates to have Izuku be a hero alongside many others. And Izuku, well, he's excited to join anybody, but the one person he sees that actually extends the hand for him is actually Sir Night-Eye. Sir Night-Eye knows of what happened and what he did, being able to give All Might a chance at being Prime All Might once again. And by the way, yes, he was utilizing or on the last embers of One For All, but Izuku has basically been able to kind of work a way where he's able to last or help One For All last a lot longer, even though it was given to Mirio Togata. So he's able to help out with making it so that he could still be a hero, still help out here and there. And Sir Night-Eye, well, he has amazing amounts of respect for that specifically, and he believes that right there is something that not many people would be able to do. Not many people, would be able to kind of get a hold of, and not many people would have really the chance or even the powers to do that specifically. And he's impressed. I mean, at the end of the day, he's definitely impressed by Izuku, and he's definitely impressed by everything that he's been able to do. And he adds and has Mirio tell him that he wants to work with Izuku overall. Now, this is after a bit of a conflict with him and with Mirio and Izuku. Not an actual conflict, of course, but like a training conflict where they have to kind of fight and spar together. And Izuku utilizes a good extent of his powers, but it seems that Mirio himself, in terms of raw power, is able to handle Izuku to a certain extent. Now, I'm not saying that Mirio is flat out stronger than Izuku. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. But Izuku does have a unique set of skills that benefit him and others in different ways compared to Mirio. Mirio's more of that one-on-one brawler, if not he can take down multiple people, but Izuku, he's that really good support / frontline hero. He has control over almost everything you could possibly think of. Yes, if he was a villain, and I think a lot of people have thought about this, if he was a villain, he'd be able to take over and or kind of change the actual foundation of every single person that really has ever existed. I mean, he'd be able to change their DNA, change their this, change their that, but of course he's not going to do that necessarily. But he has helped All Might in terms of getting better and feeling better as the number one hero continues to be the number one hero, at least for now. And of course, this would lead them to working with each other, Izuku and also Sir Night-Eye. And the whole goal is to actually get a hold of Overhaul. Now, of course, they have no expectations of them actually finding Overhaul, just not right off the rip. They're going to have to, eventually come across him, eventually, have an invasion of the Shia Hazzaikai base, as long as they can get information. And Izuku is able to gather this information pretty damn quickly. Like, he's able to gather the information for, what's happening, where's the Shia Hazzaikai base, and all the above, quicker than many have even imagined and thought was really possible in the first place. And, of course, this would be massively beneficial for Sir Night-Eye and the entire crew. And Izuku thinks that, this is really good, and this is the potential of them, getting a hold of the base, and the potential of them kind of finding and or kind of stopping the people of the Shia Hazzaikai gang, or kind of the organization, is a big point of contention. So if they can stop them, or stop the head of it especially, that's going to make way for them massively. But what they didn't know is that Izuku and also Mirio would run into Overhaul just one day on a patrol. It might sound insane, it might sound absolutely just crazy, but running into a villain like this, I mean, it's outlandish, it's unordinary, and that's what happens. They find a villain just like this. They find the villain being that of, Overhaul, and they find Overhaul, and everybody's in shock at the fact that they were able to even come across him. And what does Izuku and Mirio do? Well, initially, Mirio's thinking that they should let him go. Yes, there's a little girl at stake here and this and that, but they don't want to add unnecessary things to happen, and they believe that if they go haywire here, I mean, Eri could truly get hurt. The little girl could truly be in danger. But Izuku thinks that he has the capabilities, he has the availability, and he also has the powers to just stop Overhaul right now. And that's what he does. He creates a box around Overhaul. And Overhaul thinks, like, are you serious? Like, this is what you were doing? Like, this was your smart idea. And as he goes to actually touch the box of some sorts, and as he does, he realizes something, that he no longer can utilize his quirk. It's as if he was captured entirely. And they have hero after hero arrive at the scene, and they're basically telling him, like, yeah, so he can't use his quirk in there, in which Izuku explains the whole thing, and they ask, can we bring, this whole box to a certain area and, get quirk canceling cuffs on him? And he says, yeah, they could probably do that pretty simply. And they set up kind of a meeting, and they kind of set up an area to bring Overhaul at. They open up part of the box so that, he doesn't just get out for free and just, hurt somebody. And Izuku is actually helpful in this, where he keeps him kind of occupied and or keeps him away from utilizing his quirk, or the ability to even use his quirk in the first place. And they're able to get quirk canceling cuffs on him and stop Overhaul before anything would even occur, which is kind of insane when you put it into perspective, because Izuku was able to actually shut this all down, and they were able to shut everything down quicker than you could imagine. Now, of course, they're still going to have to face the Shia Hazaikai, or, well, Overhaul's kind of gang, you could call it, and they're going to have to fight them in the base of the Shia Hazaikai, excuse me. And this is when they're all going to be able to really prepare everything better, in fact. And that's where Izuku really thrives, right? Preparing and preparation. Izuku's really good at all of those things. And he's able to basically prepare a foolproof plan and also open up the entire building so that they can get in there, defeat all the villains, defeat the Shia Hazaikai, capture all of them, and Izuku's really good at that as well. And then bam, the Shia Hazaikai would be off the streets and unable to terrorize the streets with quirk canceling bullets, and also having their insane criminal effect on the streets of Japan. And that's a big thing for this world and a big thing for Hero Society. Now, Izuku would finish up with working with Sir Night-Eye and finish up with the Shia Hazaikai. Very, very quickly, in fact. Izuku would be a big help, and then eventually he would go on to being, his normal kind of, his normal classes and normal stuff like that, in which would lead him to actually having a bit of a, you could call it a sparring session, but it's more like a actual class exercise, where it's going to be Class 1A versus Class 1B, aka joint training. Now, this joint training is pretty damn cool when you put it into perspective, and Izuku has a team of 4 versus a team of 5. And the reason for this is because Hitoshi Shinso will actually be joining them for this more specifically, or for this kind of this thing more specifically, to show off what he's capable of doing, what he can do, and what he can get into, and what he can do to basically prove that he is prepared to either be a Class 1A student or a Class 1B student. But Izuku, I mean, he hasn't forgotten exactly what happened. He hasn't forgotten how he lost all that time ago in the UA Sports Festival. Well, sort of lost. And he hasn't forgotten any of it. He hasn't forgotten anything from this guy, Shinso. He fell for it once, but he won't fall for it again. And he tells them all that they're going to lose here. And they're going to lose in spectacular fashion. Because all of them, well, they set up, it's Izuku, it's Mineta, it's Mina, and it's also Uravity, aka Ochako Uraraka. And, well, this is where we see them go head to head with Reiko, with Shota, with Monoma, with Yui Kodai, and also Hitoshi Shinso. Now, they do have an interesting group of or a team. They have an interesting team, but in terms of keeping away from the Phantom Thief or Monoma. Izuku makes sure to stay away from him so he doesn't have to worry about his quirk getting taken at all. But Izuku knows that taking his quirk isn't going to be as easy as Monoma may think, because, well, Izuku and his powers are so different and are completely different. And before you know it, they set up a trap for the other team where they would show up and they would attack Mineta, Mina, and also Uraraka, and they would immediately be able to get out of the way, as Izuku would put a giant prison around all of them and almost immediately defeat them. And let's just say Bakugo is currently watching this thinking like, oh wow, that was the most boring way for you to win. In which Izuku shrugs his shoulders and says, whatever works and whatever, gets the job done, that's what they're going to do. They're not going to, beat around the bush. They're not going to allow other things to happen and or allow people to get away with certain things that they really shouldn't. And he's going to make sure that they're able to, shut down this fight, shut down this training session quicker than you could imagine. And he tells Shinso that the first time he may have gotten him, but this time he was not going to get him all over again. And he made sure that he defeated Shinso, made sure that he showed everybody what he was capable of. And even after that win, he still would go to his other classes, and on top of that would go to his support course where they would still be working on things for the near future. He continues to do this even throughout day after day after day. He continues to do this until eventually one day when he's in his support course, he actually gets a knock on the door. But the knock on the door is from somebody he wasn't expecting. He actually didn't know who this was necessarily. He's heard about him, but he doesn't know much about him. His name is Gran Torino. And Gran Torino would tell Izuku that they actually need his help. And he wonders, what do you need my help for? Like, what's going on? Is everything all right? And he says, well, not exactly, but there's nothing wrong to an extent. In which he tells him and explains to him that they found something in the mountains, something that he believes he would have a good kind of touch on. In which Izuku wonders, what is he talking about? As they approach the mountains, Izuku would look around. What is happening? Like, what am I supposed to be looking for? In which he tells him that. In which Izuku looks and says, what, the mountain? And he goes, no, that's not a mountain. That's a creature. That's a monster. That's something they haven't seen ever. Izuku looks closer and realizes that he's right. This, they don't know his name, but this is Gigantomachia. And Izuku wonders, what does he want him to do? And he tells Izuku that he knows that he can see things at a completely different level, a completely different scale. And it seems like he sees things that others would not. And he might be able to change the mindset and also make sure to check what this thing is trying to do. In which Izuku starts doing this, digging into the mind of Gigantomachia, but also digging into the atoms, everything that is connecting, the compounds, Gigantomachia that surrounds his body. He checks everything. And as he does, he realizes that Gigantomachia is someone that is of one purpose. And that purpose is to help all for one. Now Izuku starts poking and prodding here and there, and he tells them that shutting down and changing the mind of Gigantomachia isn't something that he can necessarily do. Sort of. He can do that, but it might have repercussions that they're not prepared for. And he tells them that Gigantomachia lays dormant right now. They should probably make some sort of restriction, some sort of prison that could hold something that may be more powerful than anything they've ever dealt with. Because he can tell that this thing might be strong and or almost as strong, if not stronger, than something like peak All Might. It's that crazy. And he tells them that in raw power, at least. Now, in terms of smarts, in terms of durability, in terms of figuring things out, or in terms of kind of thinking about things mentally, he probably wouldn't be the most intelligent thing. But he says that he can poke, he can prod, he can try to lessen the reactions of Gigantomachia and keep him sleeping for a while. But they should create some sort of barrier around this area that makes it so that Gigantomachia no longer can move and can no longer actually, get out. In which that's what they work on. Izuku works on these things, works on like these really, really insanely powerful chains that can keep Gigantomachia here, or at least to an extent keep him here. And that's what they do. And that's what works for a while. But eventually Gigantomachia would wake up and he would start sprawling, trying to get out, and Izuku would come to help, and he would immediately try to calm the beast down, telling him to relax, that everything is fine now, and he asks for all for one, wonders where his master is, wonders where where he is, but Izuku tries to get him away from that idea, telling him that all for one is now gone, that he can now live peacefully on his own and have a peaceful life in general. And he continues to try to do this, helping Gigantomachia, blah, 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 and tries over and over. And as he finally would get a hold of the mind of Gigantomachia, the Gigantomachia would finally calm down and eventually would become somewhat stable. Now, keeping an eye on Gigantomachia is something that Izuku does for years to come, because he's a monster, a creature, and something that could always potentially go haywire. But throughout these years, from his second to even third year, they continue to make massive leaps in technology, massive leaps in things that they never thought they would be able to make massive leaps in. I mean, better prisons, better things to shut down villainy, to cancel quirks, to stop this, stop that. Everything gets more durable, everything gets better, prisons get stronger, heroes have better support items, and it's all because of the help of Izuku Midoriya and Mei Hatsume. And on top of that, Izuku starts getting funding, even at when he becomes a third year, not even a full-fledged hero just yet. He starts getting funding from Melissa Shields and also David Shields and the United States. He starts getting funding from them, help from them, and also just flat out he gets massive help from them, and also is able to elevate the technology from the United States to even Japan itself. He's elevating everything. Izuku is, Mei Hatsume is, Melissa Shields is, and even Momo Yaoyorozu starts helping out to a massive degree. Now, even Momo starts learning throughout these years that Izuku is someone who she can learn from quite a bit because of his kind of control and understanding of molecules, atoms, and so much more. And well, it's honestly a good thing that she does this, because it honestly makes her an even better hero than anyone thought she would be in the first place. And Izuku starts elevating every single person that surrounds him, from the support heroes to even actual regular heroes that you would see on a day-to-day basis. Izuku continues to show every single person that not only is he a powerful hero that will go out there on the front lines to save those who are in need, but also someone who can support, who can help, and who can make sure everyone is safe and healthy, and that's something he continues to do. And as he graduates UA High School, he graduates at the top of his class, part of the Big Three, and Izuku is a big component of so much more than anyone could possibly imagine. He borderline stops stops sickness, stops cancer, stops all of these things, and Izuku is able to help with every aspect of hero work, from helping people to stopping people that are powerful, to helping out with controlling and helping prison systems, and or kind of helping out anything you could possibly even imagine. Izuku Midoriya really upholds a standard that nobody thought would be able to be upheld than compared to someone like All Might. All Might was a hero's hero. Your favorite hero, well, All Might was your favorite hero's hero. And Izuku will soon be able to uphold that specifically. Yes, is he not your Mirio Togata who smiles with every single interaction and stops every villain with kind of a smile and a fist in the sky? Of course he's not. He's not, because he does things differently. He handles things differently, but he is truly the hidden number one hero. Even if Izuku never will get the title of number one, and he won't ever get the title of number one, he's still, everybody, himself, and everyone else will know that Izuku Midoriya is the number one hero truly in actual action, in actual, purpose. Because Izuku might be able to kind of not interact, aka work with things the way Mirio Togata is able to do, but Izuku damn well can do every single thing to a high degree, but still help those in need in every single aspect of the imagination, and Izuku Midoriya shows off everything that he's capable of day in and day out, and continues over and over again to show that he can do so much more than anyone even could possibly imagine. Now, with all that said, if you enjoyed the video of Izuku Midoriya having the powers of matter manipulation, make sure to show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below.